to hopefully inspire you in the magical world of packaging. So my name is Paul Jenkins. I'm Managing Director of a UK packaging innovation consultancy called ThePackHub. So in a moment, I will take you through some of the leading packaging trends that we're following in our business. But first of all, I just wanted to give you a very brief introduction to what ThePackHub is. So we're an independent packaging innovation consultancy, and our research and support has been influencing packaging innovation for over a decade. We like to think of ourselves as packaging trends experts, and we have permission to do that through the resources that we collate. So we have something called the Innovation Zone, which is a packaging innovation database where we've been collating packaging innovations and packaging initiatives for the last 8 or 9 years, and we've got over 9,000 initiatives that we've collated at a rate of 30 a week from around the world, and that's household, health and beauty, food, beverage, etc. We've also got a patent tracking service, so we're finding the most interesting packaging inventions and collating them as well. We have a technical services team that help with various projects, and that's the very attractive looking team of 13. So the first thing I'd like to do is look at some packaging trends. So I've got some real life examples to show you. And I think it's fair to say that the last few years has seen a permanent change in the type of innovations that we're seeing. Perhaps 5 years ago, maybe 30 or 40% of the innovations we were seeing were to do with sustainability. But of course now, just about every initiative is related to some sort of environmental benefit. So what I've done is I've broken down the trends into 5 areas. So that is about recycling. So an awful lot of activity in recent times trying to improve the recyclability of packaging. Not just the recyclability of packaging, but the amount of recycled content. Various laws have come in. For example, there's a plastic packaging tax in the UK, which there's a fee for anything under 30% recycled content. So that is encouraging brand owners and retailers to increase the amount of recycled content in their packaging. So recycling is a really big area. Probably, to be honest, half the initiatives that we're tracking is related to some sort of recycling initiative. Another quite interesting area is around sort of bio-packaging. So that's using alternative materials to virgin plastics. So I've got some interesting examples to show you there, and it's all about compostability and biodegradability and things like that. Another really big trend that we've seen, particularly over the last 18 months to 2 years, is what we called sort of made-up word, which is paperization. So that is moving mainly from plastic, but also from other materials into fiber and paper-based initiatives. So I've got some examples to show you there. The fourth sustainable trend area is around refillable and reusable packaging. This is an area of great development, lots of pilots, lots of trials. We're still to see sort of many mass market examples coming to the market. But this is, if we're going to save the planet, refill and reuse has to have a major role in reducing the amount of single-use, unrecyclable packaging that we're currently using. And the fifth area is around reduction. So that's not a very exciting area. It's about lightweighting. It's about reducing the amount of packaging that we use. Okay, so without further ado, I'll go on to the first section, which is about recycling. So I've got for each trend, I've got about 4 or 5 examples. So this first one is from Colombia, and this is a brand called Café Buendia. And what we're seeing is a lot of pouches and flexible packaging formats moving to mono-materials, so to make them easier to be recycled. So this is a 100% HDPE pack, and they're they're saying that this solution has led to a 59% reduction in carbon emissions and a 37% decrease in energy consumption as part of this. So this is one of many examples that we're tracking of a sort of mono-material pouch format. It doesn't necessarily have to be HDPE. It could be PE or whatever. So that's the first example. The next example is actually from the Czech industry, and I believe that Greiner are actually here. By complete coincidence, I put this in. I didn't know that they were exhibiting, but their K3R10 initiative is we've been tracking for a while now, and this is an excellent example of trying to make packaging more recyclable by making it easier to recycle. So you have a paper cover and a plastic pot, which are very easy to separate. The consumers can separate them and put them in the individual waste streams for recycling. So this is a very established initiative from Greiner, and they've won World Star Packaging Awards, and I'm sure some other awards for that excellent piece of innovation with a 98% material recovery. An important part of recycling is not necessarily just the actual packs, but it's how those packs are then recycled. So we're seeing many DRS systems coming in around the world, deposit return schemes, and this is just a typical example from Australia, where they're testing how to encourage consumers, how to make it as easy as possible for consumers to deposit their packaging and in this case get a reward in return. So this is a test that's going to around 1,000 households in Australia to test various different systems. And of course, with technology now, everyone's got a smartphone. We've got QR codes, we've got potentially NFC and RFID tags that can help with the identification of packs. So there's a lot of development in this area, and this is just one example of the type of DRS systems that we're seeing. The other side of recycling, so I talked about improving recyclability, but also recycled content is the other side of the coin. In this case, we've got an initiative from the USA where they've included 30% post-consumer recycled content in this cheese brand. So we're starting to see recycled content in food contact products. And I guess this is a food contact product, although it's for dogs, and this is for Mars Pet Care in Germany for their Schmacko's pet range, and they're making their packs from 60% recycled plastic. So lots and lots of examples. I could show you 500 from the last 7 or 8 months. There really is that many that we're tracking. Okay, so that's recyclability. The next one is bio-packaging alternatives. So there's lots of development going on in the market. Many of these examples are pre-commercialization, so they don't yet have the perfect solution in terms of scalability, cost, because these things often cost a lot more to produce than very efficient plastics. But it's an example from Germany where they're incorporating mycelium, which is a mushroom-based product, combining it with wood chips, hemp, and reeds to come up with this biodegradable composite. So, I mean, just by looking at the picture, that is quite away from something you might see on a piece of packaging. But just trying to give you an example of some of the developments that we're seeing. Parkside, which is a UK-based company, and I was at their factory earlier this week, actually, and they're very strong on developing compostable packaging. And this is for Darkwoods coffee. Real challenges around compostable packaging in terms of the infrastructure. Most consumers don't have access to home composting. I presented to some Belgian students in London recently, and they got very excited about compostable packaging, and then I asked them where they lived, and they all lived in apartments and flats without a garden, so they couldn't compost at home. And the UK doesn't have a curbside composting collection scheme. We don't really have industrial composting, so that compostable pack will just go in landfill. It won't end up being composted in the traditional sense. So there's a lot of challenges around compostable packaging, but we're seeing a lot of developments in this area. Other materials, like wheat straw for copal, which is another. Australia is a very big market for compostable and biodegradable packaging. So that's a sort of an alternative to plastic there. Sugarcane waste, Queensland University, again in Australia, have been developing. Sugarcane has been a biomaterial of choice for many years now. But what we're seeing more of is using waste material. So this is sugarcane waste that would otherwise not be used in its conventional sense. So that is a good use of resources if you're using something that would not necessarily be used for anything else. And chitin, which is a seafood-based material from the University of Connecticut. Again, that's been developed in a number of different iterations for packaging applications. So again, I could show you hundreds of examples, but hopefully that gives you a flavor of the kind of things that we're seeing. The next area is paperization. As I mentioned, we're seeing quite a lot of moving out of plastic into paper. I'm sure you've probably seen the Blue Planet 2 program, the David Attenborough program, which came out about 6 or 7, maybe 8 years ago now. And that was an international success, and what it did, it alerted everybody to the challenges and problems we have with plastic packaging getting into the oceans and into the environment. And that really led to a whole change in behavior. It led to all the recycling initiatives, it led to law changes, it led to pacts to improve packaging. But it also alerted consumers to think that plastic is bad and plastic should change. So a lot of consumers still think that plastic should be banned, and they'll be telling people on their phone that we shouldn't have any more plastic. But my view is that it's about the right material for the right application. So for certain applications, plastic remains the correct and right material. But what we are seeing is a number of different initiatives moving out of plastic and other materials into paper-based. So you may have seen this recently. This is from Diageo. They are very active in the paper bottle space. So there's about 3 or 4, maybe 5 companies that are developing prototypes and trials for paper bottles. So Diageo's motives here is to replace glass, which is very heavy and has a high carbon burden, with paper, which is very light and potentially recyclable. So this is all about carbon reduction. So they're doing a small trial in Edinburgh in Scotland, and the bottle has been shown to potentially reduce carbon emissions by up to 47% to glass. I spoke to the Diageo packaging manager responsible for this project, and I said, well, if you're looking to reduce carbon footprint, why don't you move to plastic? And the answer was consumers won't accept an expensive bottle of whiskey in a plastic format. But their research suggests that paper bottles are something that consumers are open to. So I think this is a long way from being walking down the shopping aisle and seeing paper bottles everywhere. I think we're a long way from that. But it's interesting, the developments that we're tracking. So we're also seeing paper-based pouch and bag formats. So again, this is Parkside, and they've launched a paper-based pack, which still has the high barrier performance necessities the plastic variant in terms of high moisture and on oxygen as well. So paper is obviously a very unique material. It doesn't perform as well as plastic for certain applications. So there's lots of work going on to improve the barrier of paper to ensure that it can be as good as plastic or even better. So this is just one example from Fraunhofer in Germany, who are working on a plasma-coated paper to make the barriers as good as plastic. So that's an ongoing development, and it may not see the light of day, but it's just giving you an indication for some of the things we're seeing. This is a very strong brand in the UK. I'm not sure if you have them nor in the Czech Republic. It's a Unilever brand, but they've recently moved from their multi-layer aluminium wrappers to recyclable paper wrappers. So this still gives the same shelf life, the same functional performance, but those wrappers can now be recycled in curbside, whereas the aluminium wrappers were multi-layered and presumably couldn't be recycled. And the last sort of paperization example here is from Mondi, and they've been doing a lot of work with their functional barrier paper reduced material. And in the UK, there's quite a few brands now, bread brands that are in paper format. And sometimes, I think in this particular format, that works quite well, but sometimes the glue doesn't work very well or end to end, and the pack can sort of fall apart. So arguably, this isn't, not this one, but some applications aren't as good as the plastic it replaces. But this is very consumer friendly. This is what consumers want. Okay, next one is refill and reuse. So I explained at the beginning, we're seeing a lot of trials and pilots, not so much mass market commercializations. We're still at the testing phase here. The challenge here is multiple. Consumers. So we're requiring behavioral change. We're expecting consumers to expect a little bit more inconvenience if they're having to deposit their, if you're going into a shop and then putting their product into a container, that takes time. They've got to carry the containers to the store. There's all sorts of inconveniences that we need to allow for. We need to have a system where we ensure that the packaging comes back. There was a really good trial with a system called Loop with Tesco and various other supermarkets around the world. But the packaging was so good, one of the reasons it wasn't being returned is that people think, oh, I'll keep this. It was a really nice ice cream pack that kept the product cold outside of the freezer. And there was a £1 deposit, like a €2 deposit or whatever. But people were keeping them because they were really nice to keep in their house. You've got to have the packs coming back. Otherwise, these packs need to come back 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 times. And unless they do, if they only come back once or twice and then they get lost, it's worse than having single-use packaging. So this is Ocado Retail, which is an e-commerce only UK retailer. And they've worked on these reusable polypropylene packs. And therefore, personal care, cleaning supplies, cereals, and pasta. Because it's e-commerce, it gets delivered to the consumer consumes it, and then gives back the empty containers when they get the next delivery. So they can ensure that reuse return rates are high, and there's already someone coming back to pick up those containers because they're delivering the next order. So that works really well. So the packs are designed to be reused up to 60 times. The reality is no pack is going to be reused 60 times. Even with a 95% reuse rate, that's 1 in 20 packs gets lost every time, if you see what I mean. So, but that was launched a couple of months ago, and we're still waiting to see how it's going. They keep running out of stock, which suggests that it's going very well. Ocado is quite a middle-class brand, so there's a view that that consumer is more likely, potentially, to embrace refill and reuse. Another example from Abel & Cole, another UK online grocer. They're actually moving this format into normal bricks and mortar stores. So these 25 containers covering a range of different products will be available in some stores in London. The packs have got a very standardized format, just the label changes. They're nestable, so the packs for distribution, it's really efficient. You can get lots more on one truck. So they've really thought about that. So, this is the future for refill, is nestable, standardized packs like this. This design could very well be the design that people move forward with. This is in France, Kit Kat and Lion, owned by Nestlé. They developed these reusable packs for their Kit Kat Ball and Lion Pops products. Stainless steel. My comment earlier about packs being too good to give back, potentially we got this here. I think I'd be tempted with I think it's a €1 deposit, €2 deposit. I think I'd pay €2 to have that pack and keep that. I can keep things in there. So will be interesting to see what their return rates are. And as I say, as I reinforce, it's really important that the packs keep coming back. Otherwise, there's no point doing a reuse system. Now, this is a Swedish company called Meadow, and they've developed a unique aluminium can with a very, maybe you can see that, the can top has got like a daisy construction. It's a daisy top system. The can's been designed specifically for this application. It's a cartridge packaging system. So consumers put the aluminium can into the cartridge, and then their product is dispensed that way. The can is still a single-use piece of packaging, but of course aluminium is infinitely recyclable. So I think that's a really clever piece of packaging engineering there. A couple more in the refill area. Lots of refill pouches. I said that we weren't really getting mass commercialization of refill, but of course we are seeing these kind of packs coming onto supermarket shelves throughout Europe and North America. So this is an olive oil brand, and the idea is that consumers buy the pouch, which is a lot lighter than a glass bottle, and they decant it into the glass bottle and then save on materials. And the last one in this section is kind of ticking two boxes. So it's a refill pack, and it's also a paper pack. And it's really interesting if you look at the front of the pack. 5 years ago, no brand owner would talk about packaging on the front of the pack. We're now getting people talking about being recyclable, being made out of paper, being compostable. So these big messages, that paper pack sign is bigger than the Nescafe Gold logo. So some brand manager thinks that it's really, really important to communicate that is a paper pack to consumers. And I think that is a real change. Packaging is now an even bigger tool for brands to win market share. The last sustainable section is around reduction. So this has been going on for many years, and the primary objective ostensibly is to save money. Making packs lighter, it's cheaper to transport, you're using less materials, but of course there is a sustainable angle to it. So if you make your packs lighter, it's also, you're buying less materials, so it becomes cheaper as well. So some interesting ones here from Graham Packaging in the US. And what they've done here is, you see the red areas, they focused on those to get the integral strength of the pack and made the overall pack lighter, but still those red areas ensure that the pack still meets the needs of of the brand owner in terms of the industrial goods that go in there. So that's just a clever piece. Rather than making the whole pack a certain thickness, they focused on certain hot areas that need to be done. Diageo, I've got them again. They're very active in packaging innovation. And they recently announced the proud launch of the world's lightest 70 cl Scotch whisky glass bottle. This is, the average bottle weighs 500 grams. This is just 180 grams without a lid. The dilemma for Diageo is that pack weight is a proxy for quality. So if you pick up a whiskey bottle and it feels heavy, it feels premium, doesn't it, I think? Whereas if it's really light, it starts to feel a little bit cheaper potentially. But again, their motives here are to reduce carbon emissions. So to take weight out of the supply chain, use less glass, recycle less glass, and transport less glass effectively. And I think they've made this technology available open source, so this is available for other brands to exploit, which I think is a very good thing. And the last one in this section, I guess this could be a paperization section, really, but this is a cardboard pallet as opposed to a plastic one, weighing just 6 kilograms, making it 80% lighter than its wooden counterparts. And they still support significant, even load distribution. Okay, so three or four new technology sections, and then we'll be ready for some coffee break. So I mentioned refill and reuse. So there's lots of sort of technologies obviously change. AI now is sort of transforming how we communicate and how we think and how we do everything. Smart intelligent packaging has been slowly developing, or fastly developing over the last few years. As technology improves, costs come down, it becomes more and more accessible. And here we have Sodexo in the US, who have partnered with a reusable packaging tracking experts, ThePackHub, to develop a track and trace system for college campuses in the US. So this is just about making the packs easier to track and trace. The information that they can then give to the brand owner about what is going on with that pack, where it is, how many times it's been used, etc., is really useful. They're claiming a 97% return rate in this application. Smart food packaging, lots of color-changing labels we've seen over the years. None have really become commonplace. So this is probably the 15th example I've seen in the last few years of a pack that changes color depending on the life of the product inside. So if it's a certain color, then it should be spoiled. So this is potentially an alternative to relying on best before dates. So using a bit of technology rather than throwing something away just because the date has gone. Coca-Cola have launched in Brazil, or did launch, a Marvel tie-up with a pack using Thor from the Marvel films. Thor's hammer lights up. So quite an interesting innovation. The challenge here is that we used to see lots of these a few years ago, but because sustainability is such an important and necessary area of development, these kind of things have taken a step back. You know, if you're launching something like this, you know, how recyclable is it? How sustainable is it? How good for the environment is it? So it's a real challenge here, but you know, this is good for shelf standout and everything else. I mentioned, I think I mentioned NFC, so near field communication, so chips in the packaging, so that consumers can interact. Most consumers in Northern Hemisphere countries have the ability to read NFC. So in theory, you could just walk up to this pack, put your phone there. It could tell you all sorts of things. It could tell you which factory it was made in, when it left the depot. It could give you recipes or health guides or take you to tutorial videos. And also the brand owner gets lots of information about the consumer in return. So they know when they're interacting with the brand, they know where they are. So that actually it's a two-way thing there. So we're seeing lots of NFC and QR engagement tools. The challenge remains twofold. One, cost. Putting NFC chips into packaging isn't cheap yet. And sustainability. That chip, how do you recycle that and what do you do with that at its end of life? Okay, so I've taken you through lots of different innovations covering sort of 6 packaging trend areas. That's me. Thank you very much. Paul Jenkins from the ThePackHub. Very happy to talk to you over the coffee break.
Great. Thank you very much, Paul. We had some questions on Slido, so we'll get right to them. We've got 3 questions on there. I think we'll have time to do it.
Okay, yep.
3 minutes,
yep.
1 minute per question. So first one, how compostable packaging contributes to the circular economy?
Yep.
Isn't it just a greenwashing, linear take, make, waste model?
Yeah, it's a very good point, and I would tend to agree that if we're looking at things from a circular economy point of view, compostable packaging breaks that circle. I think it has a place in terms of the development, because if you think idealistically, a pack that disappears, there is some merit in that, but I agree that we don't have the finished answer yet. We don't have the infrastructure, and refill and reuse, for example, is a better solution than compostable.
Mm-hmm. Good. Second question, you probably travel a lot. It's true, you're always traveling, right?
I'm in Paris next week.
Yeah. So, do you bring packaging home with you from your trips?
I do.
And
I'm going to Cortland later. I will be looking.
The 3 ladies are here from Kaufland there, so they can give you tips.
Okay, well, we'll have a chat. The challenge is that we're in a global marketplace, and actually, the packs you see in the Czech Republic, or Czechia, and the UK, and in Spain and US are quite similar. Mm-hmm. The formats are quite standardized, but occasionally you see a gem that you haven't seen anywhere else.
Exactly. And what was the last package that you brought home to show your colleagues or your family?
Probably in a duty-free or something like that, because the duty-free market, they had permission to do something a bit more fancy and the dwell time's longer, so, but I can't quite remember. Maybe a Toblerone pack or something like that. I can't remember.
But you do that. You
I do that, yes. My wife says, "What? Not another piece of packaging." My office is full of stuff. Yeah.
Exactly, full of the examples. So finally, how does we didn't talk much about labels. So the label contribute to the reuse, refill packaging system. Do you see the trend in using washable labels or the label that withstands the washing process?
Absolutely. Yeah, maybe I didn't mention that much. The label is very much part of that. So washable labels, reusable labels, laser etching is a thing. So Sprite from Coca-Cola had laser etching rather than using a label at all. Mm-hmm. So yes, so having a label that could be reused or can be recycled is very much part of the reuse agenda, definitely.
Yeah. Good. And one last one popped up here. What's the advantage of using the paper instead of glass for bottles? The glass is a lot of recyclable sections, so overall it could represent sustainable solution, I guess.
Yeah, well, I guess hopefully I reinforced this at the time. The primary objective of moving out of glass into paper bottles is carbon footprint reduction. That is pretty much it. It's about, because glass is recyclable, but it's heavy, it's very energy, uses a lot of energy to make and to also recycle, whereas paper has different opportunities. So that is the primary reason for that. I'm not supporting or endorsing it necessarily. I'm just saying that's why they're doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, good, good. All right, well, that looks like we've gotten all the questions from here. We've got 11, 10, 9 seconds left, so we finished exactly on time. So I'd like to thank Paul Jenkins for a great presentation. It really was a whirlwind tour of all the packaging. There was a lot of information up there, so I did want to ask, we can give the presentation to the people.
Yeah.
So if you didn't happen to manage to read everything, and I'm sure you didn't, then you'll get that. Also, if you'd like to read about what Paul has to say, in the magazine that you have in front of you, there's an interview with Paul that we did as sort of a teaser for the Congress. And of course, Paul will be here all day today, all evening, and then tomorrow at the Lego site visit.
Looking forward to that, yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
be at the Lego site visit. So you'll get lots of chances to talk to Paul. Great. Well, that's all. So thank you very much. Big round of applause for Paul Jenkins.
Thank you.